Good morning and welcome to Reuzel Live. Today is Monday, April 25th, 2022. My name is Nicholas Giberson with Reuzel Education, and today we have a very special guest all the way from Rotterdam, Holland, at the Holy Ashtray, Schorem's own Jason Milky the barber. Irwin, take it away, Milky.
Hey guys, I'm Jason. I work at Schorem, and I'm going to be cutting Reuben here's hair today. I've worked at the shop for a few years, and I've done a few of these lives, and I'm really excited to be able to bring to you guys my own way of cutting a long-trim pompadour. So let's get right into it. I'm going to definitely need the full hour. I'm probably the slowest barber in the shop. So Reuben is one of my regulars, and Reuben is about a month out from his haircut, 6 weeks.
Yep.
And this was actually great timing because I sent Reuben the message to be here today, and he sent back that he was actually going to book a haircut this week anyways. So we can see right away, at least with the haircut that I give him today, grows back into, which is, for growing back in, I think about as good as it can get. It's a little long around the ears, but you can see that the technique holds its basic shape. There's still a lot of texture in there. It still flows really nice. We're going to do a lot of cleaning up today, but I like you can see what the haircut looks like when it comes back into the shape as well. So we're going to start with even dampness in the hair. You probably hear this in all the lives we do. But it's super important that whatever amount of wetness the hair has is always even. Hair stretches when it's wet. So if you have a dry patch and a wet patch and you cut them in a straight line, when they dry, they're not going to be in a straight line. And the longer the hair is, the more it stretches. So this is especially true when you're working on that connection between the top and the sides. And as I work through the hair and I move it around with the water, I just really want to be paying attention to any kind of growth patterns that are in there. You can see that the hair is really, it just jumps out a little bit when you comb it around. So I have to make sure that I don't go too short in the temple areas or it's really going to be flaring out. The video looks good? Yeah, cool. But I mean, come on guys. When you see the hair comb like this with just a little bit of water in it, you know that you're going to be in for a you're going to be going for the Instagram picture afterwards, for sure. So then always after wetting the hair down, my first move is to find where I have to make that parting between the top and the sides. So the parting between the top and the sides separates your hair at its transition point. So where the short hair becomes long hair. So for different haircuts, this parting can be in different places. So for this haircut, I know that because I want to keep this quite full and quite square, I have to take the parting on the lower kind of perspective around the parietal ridge because this will leave more weight as we travel over the head. Sometimes in shorter haircuts, I might make the parting here where it transitions into the crown because then right away I can start to develop a lean quality that you need to go from bald to length. But since we're working with kind of a heavier haircut, I'm going to be taking that parting a little bit lower. This is quite a core part of our technique. So I imagine that this is not a surprise that this is where I'm starting from. And especially because I'm going to be doing quite a bit of scissor work on this cut, I want to make sure that I don't have to keep cutting one side and then the other. So I always start from a place of balance. So not only am I going to make the parting on this side, but I'm going to make the same parting on the other side. And you'll notice in the back when I do this, they're going to meet in a V shape. So let me make that parting and show that to you guys. What I like about this V shape is it leaves weight above the occipital bone. And the occipital bone is really one of the biggest risk factors that you're going to experience in your haircutting because that is what the silhouette of the haircut is most dependent on. So by leaving a little bit of weight there, there's always a little bit of extra hair to play with in case something goes wrong, there's something you didn't expect. You're not going to be running into too much danger with it. Nice. That was just about even. Cool. So once I have my parting in there, I'm really going to get into kind of the rhythm of the haircut. This is where you almost want to feel like a machine as you're working. Make sure that dampness is even, all the hair is laying together. I'm going to get the hair out of Reuben's face just with a clip, just so it's not all running down on him. And we're going to really just start to work on the side. So now there are two options for how we can cut the sides on the long-term pompadour, depending on the final look you're going for. You have a triangular graduation, but then you can also work with slightly lower sections that work around the head, more so than down, and that's a round graduation. And that's going to develop more weight at the parietal ridge, but it'll also create a really nice wave to the back, as opposed to triangular graduation, which creates a really lean shape. And my concern with Reuben's hair in a triangular graduation is that that jumpiness, I think, will be a greater risk because it will be shorter around the parietal ridge. So I'm going to do a round graduation to the back to preserve length through here to make sure that that jumpiness doesn't pose a problem. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure it's evenly damp. I'm going to kind of move the hair in the direction of the section I'm taking. And I'm going to start with my first section, just down to the ear. You see, it's not very vertical. It's not quite horizontal. It's still a diagonal, but it's quite shallow. I'm going to come up underneath it, making sure all the hair is in my comb. And now this is really important. Reuben, can you tilt your head? Just like this. Maybe Lawrence, you can get in. You can see, look at how much the skin moves when you pull on it. Especially in this front hairline, it's really important that you don't do this, because now when I cut that line, the hair is going to return all the way back to there because of the skin. So it's really important that you keep the tension on the hair, but you don't flex the skin. So I'm combing underneath the hair because this is going to relieve weight in the sideburn area. The next section is going to be run parallel to that. And you can see that my fingers direct the hair down. So this is cut at a true length, and then this is over directed a bit. And that is what's going to build up the weight that creates our flow to the back of the head. Can you guys see that well? We're just running back. This hair is coming down, this hair is coming straight out. Come that one more time. But you see too, I'm not pulling that skin out of the head. I'm making sure that this hair has tension on it, but the skin is still relaxed. And you can see why I describe this as kind of the machine of the haircut. This is where you just want to make sure that you're working through your sections evenly, your work is clean. But you can already start to see that we are following the same shape that if I'd done this clipper over comb. I like to work with the scissors though, because it gives me a little bit more control. And I think the final flow of the haircut, I have a bit more, I can add a bit more nuance to with my scissors than with my clippers. Because when I take the hair away, I take away exactly what I see. So you'll notice I comb different directions depending where I am on the head. For instance, this section I combed up. But the next section now, I'm going to make sure I comb down. So we go down, and this builds weight. By combing down, you're encouraging that the hair falls into the weight. We're going down. And now here, I'm going under. Because now we're working into where the nape graduation is. And this means that I'm going to be relieving the weight that is going to be happening here, so we get the nice taper. This is going to also really contribute a lot to that natural flow of the haircut. Down, down. And you can see these sections are long. They really wrap around the head, but that creates the really nice wave that we're going to see traveling through the side already there. Just like that. Are there any questions on what you guys are seeing so far? Nice. Well, that means I'm doing a good job, I think.
No questions so far.
What?
Actually, right as I said that, we got a question.
Oh, great.
Dan Gardner asks, so after you get your section and pull out the length, are you backing off tension to make the hair lay better after the cut?
Yeah. So I really pull the hair out. I squeeze my fingers together so that the hair is really cut at the right length, but I'm not like using my elbow. You know, you see the head move. I'm pulling the tension out, and then I am just keeping my fingers relaxed though, because I don't want to see the scalp flex. I want to see the hair where it's supposed to come out of the roots still. I think that especially when we work really technically, it becomes a habit of barbers to just try and force the technique in. but you're still, we're not working with a calculator or something. We're working with an organic subject. So as we start to work through the hair, it's important you still respect it as an organic material, so you're not too forceful with it. Also, in terms of customer service, it's a lot more pleasant when your barber is forceful enough that you feel they're confident, but not so forceful that you're starting to wonder if they hate you. So you guys can see already, we get a nice little line of weight there, but that weight, only when we comb it down is there, because when the hair moves into its natural position, it develops this really smooth wave to the back. And you're going to see that when we comb that really to the back at the end, put a little product in it, you're going to get this nice wide shape, this nice full shape that's going to give the pompadour a really, really classic style. Excellent. So now comes the most difficult part of the haircut. I've done all this. I'm very satisfied with it. Now I have to go to the other side and make sure that it's the same length. This is always the thing that trips me up most in the shop. I spend more time checking and fixing these little things than I do actually even worrying about the cut at the end. So now the thing is when we worked on the other side, all of our sections moved back and back and back and back. So if I'm going to keep my fingers in that same angle, but working the other direction, I'm going to have to move my elbow up, and I'm going to be working down. So I take my sections, I want them traveling in the same direction. I want everything to match. So I'm going under, I'm going under.
Jason, I have another question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
Martin Carlson asks, what do diagonal sections do versus vertical sections?
Oh, that's a great question. This is actually really important in understanding the technique. So I really appreciate Martin asking this. The diagonal section aligns the shorter hairs within a section to make sure they're all moving in the same direction. So a section of hair, if it's even 3 hairs wide, has 1 hair in the middle and 2 hairs that are over-directed to it. This is not something we see with our eye, but this small undulation in the hair, if you align them, will create a natural flow to the hair. So if I take horizontal sections, the hair will fall horizontally with those short and long hairs within the layer. If I take a vertical one, the hair will fall really vertically. But if I take these diagonal sections, especially these shallow ones, you see that the little hairs align in this pattern, and that's what creates the wave to the back. This is also what I like about scissors. This is something that with the comb, because all the hair comes, straight out of the comb, it comes out of, and you cut it at a fairly even length, you lose this slight undulation, this small imperfection within your sections that make the haircut have this natural flow to it. So it might seem almost like, esoteric or redundant to be doing something with scissors that we all know that we're capable of with clippers. But I think that these small things give it a special touch and really help you elevate your hair cutting to the next level. Because it's not only important what the hair looks like when you're cutting it, but like you saw at the beginning of the video, these are the small details that help the hair grow in so nicely. I mean, Ruben was even wearing a hat when he came in, so this is what it looked like after being under a hat all day. You see, we're just working those sections still. Taking that length down even, making sure to maintain some of that weight for the roundness, taking the hair away. This, for me, is really kind of the beauty of the modern barber culture, is that it's kind of moved past this insistence that, like, barbers use clippers, hairdressers use scissors, or we have to do everything scissor over comb. Once you take a section, you're a hairdresser. And it's kind of started to utilize the best of both worlds. Like, we're very aware of what we can do with hair now because we've started to break down these ideological barriers that separate a men's hairstylist from a barber, and a barber from a hairdresser, and a hairdresser from a colorist. And, we start to see things with a more holistic picture. For instance, I have one of my favorite customers that comes in. When he gets his, he gets these really strong blonde highlights. And I think about it when I cut his hair. How do I take my sections? How do I create my texture to really emphasize this? And this for me is really kind of the beauty of, even in the classic barbering world, this modern culture that we have about it, where we look at the whole picture of the customer rather really than just how much hair we're taking off and putting on the floor. Really making sure to get all that hair. You can see I'm combing down because I'm trying to preserve the weight. I'm combing under to take the weight away, just at the base where it's hitting the nape. Let's see how we're doing in terms of balance here.
I've got a few more questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire away.
All right, so I got two questions, two different people. What's the downside of using the clipper over comb technique for long trims? And were you a barber when you first went to Rotterdam?
Well, I wouldn't say that there's a downside. I mean, everybody has their own technique. For instance, I mean, the guy that really brought us all here, Rob, would have done the same haircut with clipper over comb, and it would have looked absolutely stunning. So I wouldn't say that there's a downside, but there's your personal touch to it. And for me, my personal touch, you know, the Jason touch, the Milky the barber touch, is this scissor element. But for Rob, his personal touch is that he can create the same look with the clipper over comb element. So the downside is not so much. It's not. I wouldn't say that there's a downside, but I would say that there is your personal way of working. So for me, clipper over comb has a big downside. I don't like it as much as scissors. For Rob, the downside of scissors, he doesn't like it as much as clipper over comb. So there is the balance to it. And especially because the other thing that people bring up a lot is how much slower this technique is. I do, at this point, this faster with scissors than with clippers. If I was to do this with clippers, I would have screwed it up and I'd have to do it again and again and again, and then it would be way too short and I would have spent more time on it than I do with the scissors. I really don't want anyone to take away from the video as I kind of talk about my personal feelings on the ways to cut hair, that there is a downside to something. I just, you know, it's good to kind of just expand the way you think about things and recognize that just because your favorite barber does it one way or this barber on Instagram does it one way, that it's the better way and that there's a downside to the alternative. But to answer the question about whether or not it was a barber when I moved here, I was. Apparently not a very good one because I trained for the next 6 months after I got here, but I was technically a barber. I started actually not as a barber, but I started as an apprentice for hair color when I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school. And I was terrible at it because I am not completely colorblind, but I have a severe tonal deficiency in my eyes. So I could do like the punk hair that my friends wanted. I could do blue, I could do green, I could do pink. But once it started to get into like auburn and all these other ones and, you know, ashy, I had no idea what was going on. So I spent a lot of time at the front desk because I wasn't really allowed to spend as much time at the color bar as all the other apprentices were. And I started watching YouTube videos and I came across this video, The Demon Barber of New Abinavec. And the moment I saw this guy jump out of a sewer drain, get on his skateboard and skate away, I remembered all the times my friends and I had jumped out of a sewer drain and gotten on our skateboard and driven away. And I said, oh, that's what I want to see. And I hadn't even really put a lot of thought into the haircutting. I wasn't thinking at all about the shop. There was this guy, Lau, and I just wanted to hang out with Lau. And I lived in New Jersey at the time. And living in New Jersey, I somehow managed to convince myself that everything that was cool was in New York. So I'm going to get on the train, I'm going to go interview at this barbershop in New York, and I'll go work for them. So I plug Schorem, the Demon Barber of New Abinavec, into Google, and it tells me that it's located in the Netherlands. And I was just like, oh, I guess I still want to do it. So I spent the next few years transitioning from hairdressing to barbering and transitioning from, America to the Netherlands. There we go. I think we're even now. Yeah, there we go. Really nice. The nice thing I like about scissors as well is that it's really easy to check your technique because you can go in and take even just 1 or 2 hairs away if you see it in the haircut. Haircutting is very visual. What you are looking at is what you are seeing. One of my favorite pieces of hair advice came from this really phenomenal hairdresser for Sassoon Marquez, who said, if you can learn to cross-check with your eyes, to check for length with your eyes, then you will really become a great hairdresser. That is a required tool, because your customer isn't going to be pulling hairs out of their head, checking for length, until they visually see that there is something wrong with the length. Nice. Cool, so now we're going to be moving on to the top, now that I got the sides done. Does anyone have any questions on the technique I use for the sides before I move through to the top? Wonderful. So my next section is going to be actually one I've shown before now. I'm going to be taking a small diagonal section that leads into the crown area. Now you'll notice I'm really getting the hair wet again. Especially when you're working with a lot of sections, it's important to regularly keep wetting the hair, because the heat coming off the scalp is going to dry the hair into the shape it's combed in. So if you don't re-wet the hair throughout your sections, all that hair that I'd say pushed up here is going to be coming out of the scalp like this, and there's going to be that division in the haircut. So you have to make sure to really break down those roots again, so that your final style isn't going to be influenced by all of these sections, these fake delineations in the hair. So now I'm going to be making another triangle shape over the round of the head into the crown. Now, the way I determine where this is supposed to be is I look how the hair naturally wants to open on the side, because this is the hair from the top that's most going to want to connect into the side. So I take all of this back, and I can start to see it's going to open up in here. So I run my section back, and I make sure that I connect. You can see I've done it in the exact same place before. I'm going to make sure to connect all this to the side. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. There's a lot of cracking. You can really see it on this side. If you look up here, you can really see that that's exactly where it's going to open up. And these are the kind of things where, when we were talking earlier about treating hair as what it is, natural, are so important, because these are the kind of differences that are going to happen between every single patron. This section pattern is not going to be the same when you go and do this haircut yourself. This triangle might be really narrow. It might be even wider, totally depending on every single customer's growth implant, as well as the texture of the hair. Maybe you find that the hair is way too jumpy. You say, I need to keep as much length as I can. I'll figure out a way to visually blend it. Or maybe the hair is really soft, and you say, oh, all of the hair is going to fall down. I just need to connect it all anyways. But the nice thing with these sections patterns is you learn how to think about the hair and how the hair moves on the head. And when you really develop the techniques for thinking about the hair, then the sections can start to become more of just a vocabulary in how you cut, rather than the whole language. So now I want to be running very similar sections to what I did before. I can see where the weight line is. I want to make sure that the hair is directed down to it to keep that weight line in the same place. You can see there's a lot more over direction this time. What this is going to do is this is going to build a really wide shape at the parietal ridge that in a long trim is super essential to making sure that you get that square look. And this is almost not, it's funny, it is more square for the fact that it is not really a square shape. We're getting an extremely square result, even though the haircut itself is going to be visually, I mean, trapezoidal almost. You see that hair is really coming down. And you might be thinking, oh, wow, maybe he's not taking too much off. I'm really right now not taking that much off. The hair that's left on the head is more important than the hair that you take off, because that's what the customer goes home with. If someone's going home with the hair that they cut off, yeah, well, that's a little weird, I think. We had one time when I was still working in the salons, a woman came in and asked if we could collect the hair that we had cut all day. And we were like, I mean, our first thought was, are you going to leave it at a murder scene? But what she had actually was doing is apparently hair really deterred all the animals in her garden. So she went to all the salons and would just collect human hair and then mix it in with her wood chips and make sure that no one was eating her plants. There we go. You can really see how that scissor work is paying off for us, because that is especially, I mean, you can use any product in that and you're going to have a phenomenal result. And this is also what's really nice to think is maybe I'm spending a little extra time doing this, but because the lines are so clean, it's going to save me a lot of time when I get the blending shears out, because I don't have to take off more length. I just have to refine the haircut that I've already put in there. And you see these are just the exact same pattern as before. We're just really taking the hair down over the round of the head. Hey, Nick, have we got any questions? Cool.
No questions, just a lot of praise.
Oh, nice. Well, I need that. This is why Laura's is only filming my hands. My head wouldn't fit in the screen anymore. This is the kind of hair cutting I get really excited about still. It's, I think that there's, I don't know what it is about the way I look at hair, but this kind of really precise way of working, I find to be a super exciting way of working. It feels like, I don't know, like there's something very beautiful about how regimental it is. You know, I'm a fan of point cutting as well, and I think that it has a lot of place. But I think what I like about this work is, and you know, actually a great point was when I took this section down and I was able to see that it was in the exact same place as last time, is that when you have these really clean lines, they're never going to go away in the haircut. No matter how much you point cut and texturize, that clean line is still going to be in there. And that means that the next time you do the haircut, you're going to be able to find that exact same haircut. Isn't it really the scariest thing when you have a client and they ask you, oh, just do the same thing as last time. Just do the same thing as last time. And you're staring at them and you're like, it's been 10 weeks. How am I going to do the same thing as last time? And what I like about this is when I start to comb the hair, I can start to see exactly what I did last time. Excellent. Well, if there are no questions on this, then I'm going to move into my next section, which is going to be an even narrower triangle. So the way I find this one is I look at how the hair grows here. I'm going to take and I'm going to go up. And this is going to direct us to the highest point on the head. And this is really going to be what separates this front hair, which forms our style, from the really remaining hair that forms our connection and is the weight that we need to make the style. So this is going to be the section that really determines the last bit of squareness here, the last bit of weight here, as well as make sure there's enough weight in the crown that it's really easy to comb everything back still. And we're going to do the same section on the next side. You can see too, when I open up this section, how dry that hair is at the roots. This would be a disaster if I was to then just keep working forward, let the hair dry in all these positions. You can see that this hair is really lifting up because it dried forward. So I have to make sure to re-wet this so that my sections stay clean, my tension on the hair, the stretch of the hair, but also so that the final style isn't influenced by this irregular direction I pushed the hair.
All right, Jason, we got some questions.
Yes, what's up?
Faz Ishmael asks, would you work similarly with Asian textured hair, like super straight hair?
Yeah, I think I would. It obviously depends on the style and the texture of the hair. I've given this exact same style of haircut too with Asian hair, and Asian hair is as diverse in terms of texture and weight and heaviness as any other style of hair. It's maybe not something we see as common, but especially here where we have a lot of people that have Indonesian and Moluccan heritage, it's very different than when I get someone with Japanese heritage or Chinese heritage. So depending on where their hair comes from within Asia, it definitely influences the technique. And also when it comes to the length of the hair, because, you know, this would still work really well with someone with really straight hair. But if I wanted to do a razor fade, I might have to take different steps to get a similar smoothness to the hair. And now this is what's really special about these techniques is you learn these sections, and then you can start to break down the hair. What is essential for the pompadour? What is essential to lay down? So which sections do you need? How do you need to preserve the weight? So it's maybe not this exact method, but I wouldn't use this exact method on anyone's hair, except for Ruben's. I would adjust the method with every single haircut. Okay, so I'm taking my next section here. Now this section, you can see this is where it connects, really splits the front and the back of the head, the bone behind the ear. So now this is the hair that's in front of the ear that'll flow to the back nicely. And this is the hair that forms the rest of the crown that needs to lay down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a diagonal back section, but I'm not going to take it right on the hairline here, because this is hair I'm going to want to disconnect so I can build more weight into the front. I'm taking this section a little bit higher into this point behind the ear, because this is hair that I want to still connect into the haircut. So I'm going to pull this out, pull this up, find my line, clean it up, and just make sure that that line follows into the rest of the haircut. You can see this is a lot of over direction. I'm going to be definitely taking more hair off here when I cut the top, but this is really important that I get this connection at the right length before I start to touch anything else.
Jason, just checking in
you
with
say
you.
there were some more questions?
Yes. So I got a question, and I'm also going to let you know where we got viewers watching from. We've got people watching from the U.S., Colombia, Canada, Thailand, Mexico, Guatemala, Brazil, Indonesia. So people from all over the place.
Oh, man, that is a lot of different types of hair. Everyone's going to have a lot of fun trying to figure out how to do this in their country.
And the next question is, would it make any difference on the final result if you were using clipper over comb?
To me, yes, but that would be because this is the way I like to work. Not necessarily to everyone, though. Again, this is something where, depending on your method, it really comes down to how much you appreciate the way of working as well. So the final result visually after product, you know, that not even necessarily is always dependent on the haircut. Sometimes you see these really brilliant styles, and it's really incredible what the barbers created. But most of what they've created is done with hairspray. So then even the difference between hair cutting and hair styling comes into play. The final result is such an amalgamation of different steps that it really comes down to what you see in the haircut as being important, being essential, and being fun. You know, I have such a passion for this way of working that for me, I put so much effort into it because I like to do it this way. But if you find scissors to be super boring, then you're just maybe not going to put in the same amount of effort when you're working this way. You'll just be going in and lopping pieces off. So then there's even your personal taste coming into, you know, the dedication you have to do it, which is totally fair. Because if I was doing this with clippers, I would also just be lopping pieces off. And then, because we're working symmetrically, we're just doing the same thing on the other side again. Taking that section to here. Nice. Were there any other questions, Nick?
That's it at the moment. If anything comes in, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. Sorry, it's not always easy to hear you. I don't have AirPods or anything in, so I'm always feel like I should be checking. Nice. Cleaning up that line. You can see it's a lot of over direction. We're taking a lot of weight into this corner here. Nice. Cool. And now these sections in front of the ears, I didn't explain it on the other side, but I'll explain it here. I lift up to the section I cut first here. So I can find my line and I can see what needs to be taken off. And this is in juxtaposition to just pulling everything down, because what I like about this is then the hair is longer where the disconnection is and shorter inside of the cut. So this actually leaves even more weight around the round of the head, because then the shortest layer here isn't on the outside, but on the inside. Cool. Get that nice flow to the back. Excellent. And then that's all of the connected hair. You can see we're already in great shape when it comes to the flow we're working with. All we need to do here is take some hair away here, a little in front of the ears. And then I'm going to do all that in the dry hair, though. All I have to do now is cut the top a little bit. Nice. Okay.
Jason, we got a question.
Yep.
The question is, here in Greece, we have 30 minutes or less to complete a haircut. Is it possible to finish the cut in the time with these methods that you are using?
Yeah, I know, because I'm a little bit, I think, past the 30-minute mark now. So it looks like probably not. But I would say that using certain aspects of the technique, especially when you've really practiced it well and you're well connected to the way of working, it is possible to use similar techniques. I know that not every haircut do I do exactly this way. We have 45 minutes in the shop, by the way. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. We work in 45-minute appointments. Not every single haircut am I going to do every single one of these steps on. But for me, in teaching it this way, I can teach you every step that you need to know to understand the haircut. And once you understand the haircut, you can adjust certain steps to fit within the time frame you have. For instance, if I'm having to catch up on a day of work, maybe I move through the sections a little bit differently. I leave a bit more weight. I take a bit more weight out, just because we're not always in the perfect conditions like I have now, where I have an hour to do a haircut. Often we're in conditions where if we take an hour to do the haircut, that means we're not going to be able to use the bathroom for 3 hours, or we're going to be stuck, having an angry customer that can't believe that we took so long, or you're going to be losing out on the tip or something like that. So I think that a lot of these methods, when learned, can translate, but it's more about the way these methods help you understand the hair than necessarily the actual rhythm of the steps themselves. So you can see, to try and build some weight in the center of the head, I want to create a square line, but to create that square line, I'm combing the hair out. Because then, when I lift this up, you can see, there we go. There's just a little bit of a drift downward there. And that's going to really help the hair fall nicely. And not every barbershop I know takes 30 minutes. Some barbershops, they ask you to do it in 15 minutes. Other barbershops I know take hour appointments. There are actually some really phenomenal barbers in Athens, and I know that I believe they book at Joyce Birth, they book an hour for their appointments for 45 minutes. So if you also feel like you don't have enough time to do the work you want to do, you can also then say, well, I'm trying to learn these techniques. You take a little of your own free time to do it, or you can also start to look for a shop that's going to offer you the things you want to do to work the way you want to work. Because for me, I really think that these 45, I struggled with them at first, I have to say. I've always been a slow barber, so I always take pretty much as much time as I'm given. I'm like liquid when it comes to a clock. I'll fill any space with it. But when I got used to the 45 minutes, it just works for me. But I know other people that would say, oh, this is the most boring way to cut hair. I just need to be done with it in 30 minutes. And you can see these are just really easy profile sections we're working through. And this just connects the front into the crown. There we go. Do a little cross joint, see on this a bit there. There we go. Cool. Now I have one last thing I'm going to do before I dry the hair and we start working into our final details. Reuben, just look down for me. I love this technique. This is something I started doing recently, and it started making a huge difference for me when it comes to texture in the front. Is I look at the hair and I look at its natural growth implants to see where it kind of naturally wants to split, and I pull the hair out from that position, and I pull it forward, and I look to see how it's going to open up. I take the hair down, I look for where I'm ending, and I just do a little slide cutting through here. This creates some little short hairs in the front that are going to really make the pump stand up nicely and really fall down, take a little bit of weight out of the front hairline. This is actually, I've discovered this since the last time I cut Reuben's hair. So this is going to be, I can take a lot off here because it'll be the first time. You can see it's not really taking even almost anything off, but this really accentuates the growth pattern as well. It gives it a lot of power because there's a lot of short hair in there. And this means that that big, wide, kind of Elvis, round, open pump in the front, you can see is really then capable of doing with anyone's hair and anyone's growth pattern. Look at the difference in combing with just that little movement. Okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to put a little grooming tonic in, and we're going to dry the hair a little bit. Nice. Does anyone have any questions before I turn the blow dryer on? Because I probably won't be able to hear you then.
Yes, we've got a few questions.
Cool.
All right, first question is, what scissors are you working with?
I have no idea. I found them in a drawer. They are called Junior.
All right, and the next question
Sorry?
next question is, blending scissors, do they need to be used every time? If necessary, do you have any techniques to show when you use them?
I don't use, I would use with my blending scissors, I would say I'm using a bit of grooming tonic from Reuzel in the hair. I use blending shears maybe 99, 98% of the time. I wouldn't say that I would be hesitant to say I do anything in every haircut, but if it's anything that I do in every haircut, it's probably blending shears. But in certain longer haircuts, maybe point cutting's nicer. I will be showing blending shear techniques once I get this hair nice and dry.
And lastly, since you're about to start blow drying, these kinds of haircuts need a lot of blow drying and a huge amount of pomade to style it. Is it easy for a client to restyle on their own?
Reuben, how do you do combing the haircut?
It's very easy.
Yeah, it's very easy. There we go. What the big Johnny Bravo look might not be what everyone does every day themselves, but to comb this into a style, you can see if you want to get that like old Italian mobster look, this is with a bit of grooming tonic, wet hair, combed it back. If he let it dry like this, he would still be the classiest guy at work. If you want to do a little bit more effort, you can comb it back like this and then shake it out a little bit. And this is also a cool style. This is not something that looks unprofessional either. The nice thing with a good haircut is you can put a lot of work into it and it looks really good. But a good haircut, you can also put almost no work into it and it still looks really good. A little bit of product, a little bit of Reuzel in the hair, and you're going to have a phenomenal outcome no matter what. So this grooming tonic is just giving me a little bit of extra hold as I work through the hair, because I do want to create a kind of larger than life style, just so you can really see how the hair is working. So I'm just starting getting some moisture out of the hair before I really start to set it into a shape by blow drying with my vent brush. And you can see how any customer would be capable of blow drying their hair like this at home, and you can already see how the haircut's doing all the work. It might not look like I work very. Where did Rob put my vent brush? Sorry, Rob cut at my station today and then my vent brush is gone. It might not look like I work very similar to Rob when you see the wet hair, but when I blow dry, it is purely the Bloody Butcher's technique. So I'm just starting. Now this is a really important movement when you're trying to create a lot of width in the hair. Is just pushing it up over the round of the head, just like this, just to really let the weight of the hair fall back down to build that square angle. You bring that hair up. And always switch hands. Ambidexterity is really important when you're blow drying. And just work the same way on the other side of the head. You can see, I'm just trying to push all that hair into that corner to make sure it gets as full as possible. By going back and forth like this too, you really gain a lot of control over the roots of the hair. You see that even when I blow dry loosely, I'm still always blow drying the hair in the final direction. Cool. This is always the best feeling, is when you start to comb through the hair like this, your graduation is good, so the comb goes right through it. The way the hair lays is just almost perfect already. Then you know everything you do after this is just icing on the cake. The texture makes it easier. Getting it off the ears is important, but you're really just trying to bring it home. So I'm going to start by just taking a little bit of weight off the back of the neck. It doesn't need too aggressive of a taper because we did a lot of work already with the scissors in there, with that layering. Got to take a little bit off. Just looking for the line I used before. Now this I really like to do clipper over comb as opposed to the rest, because I really like the way that clippers just can blend the hair all the way out. Now I always try and work it really nice and short because I really want that natural neckline to erase a little bit and you to just see a smooth blend all the way out in the nape area. Going the other direction on the other side. Let me turn it. Just like that.
While Jason is working on his refining, let us know what you want to see him finish this haircut with. What products do you guys want to see him use today?
Yeah. What do you like to use at home, Reuben? What are you using right now?
The white and the silver.
The white and the silver. Okay. I think you own them all at this point, right?
It doesn't matter.
the concrete is actually a product I remember even before it was released. I had tested it on your hair, I think, a few times. So I was very excited to see it come out so I could finally send Reuben home with one of them. Just for the smell alone. Oh my God, man, it's amazing. I think that right now, that is probably my favorite product to use in the shop with customers is the concrete. That or, I'm really into the red right now as well, especially for really slick styles. If I really want to see someone that wants to take it like just flat to the head, lock it in place. I think that the red with a bit of grooming tonic on top of it can really make for a nice finish as well. There we go. And then just a little bit off the ears. One of the easiest mistakes you can make when you're working with a long trim is over contouring it. It is still long hair, so it's not like it's a huge bother if it touches the ears a bit. It's kind of just part of the look. So I always try and disturb the ear as little as possible. I want to be working around it to make sure that I'm not creating these big white walls around the haircut. So yeah, I move the ear a little bit, but not so much that it disturbs the skin. But then the hair can just fall nicely around it. And then when I turn it over, it's not disturbing the skin there. It's just enough that I have access to that area. And you can see I haven't cranked the hair down. It's still in its natural fall because that way I'm not creating a hole in the whole shape. And then here, I just want to take off as little hair as possible, especially because that taper is going to grow in so well. If I create these big gaps trying to narrow the neckline on the side, I just don't think going to look very nice. But again, that's really about your taste and your style of working and what your customers are looking for. Just like that is enough to contour around the ear. Nice. Have we had any decision on what product people want to see in the haircut?
The people have spoken. They want to see concrete.
Excellent. There we go. That's nice. Normally it happens, they say, I really like something matte. And then everyone's like, put the grease in, put the grease in.
Oh, there was green pomade suggestions as well, but more concrete
absolutely.
than anything.
Well, they're right. I mean, one time, actually, Reuben is not new to the internet with his hair. I got a message from someone that Reuben was used as a reference photo in a haircut video for, I don't remember the name of the blog. And I was super excited to send it to him, but Reuben actually had green in his hair in that video. It feels very cool to know that your haircuts have been used as references images before. Because I always remember how much time I would spend looking for what haircut I exactly wanted on a guy that looked just like me, and then bringing that to the barber, and going home with something completely different. You can see I'm really just taking the hair, the minimal amount off the ear here. You don't want to see a huge gap, because especially if you crank the hair down and then cut it like that, what you end up with is, especially when the hair loosens back up, there's going to be holes in the cut. So now,
Your dad just posted that he is loving it.
oh, thanks, Dad. I don't think it beats the time that my grandmother was underneath that photo of us. One time, Lawrence posted on his Facebook page a picture of the two of us, and my grandmother was like, "It's so nice to see your face. I love you from Arizona." But thank you for tuning in, Dad. So now we talked a little bit about the blending shears before. So my lines are good. You can see that the flow is there. So now all I really need to be doing with the blending shear is making sure there's a little bit of air in the hair. So I go just on the ends, just on that last centimeter of hair. And then once I have some real length, I just point cut in, just to give it a little bit of movement, but also to give it a little bit of Velcro. You can see I'm not changing anything with the blending shears. I'm not creating new lines. I'm just following the direction the hair wants to move, lightening it in that direction. You can see now this is a cool one. I'm not in the hair. I'm over the hair. I'm just pushing it in the direction. Let me get all the hair off my scissors so you can really see it. And I'm taking almost nothing off. You can see that's all the hair I took off. That's not a lot. But that creates a really nice flow in the direction of the hair. get through to the side here. You see there's a bit of weight in there. There we go. Just point cutting through. That perfectness in the lines is heavy, and that can really fall as a line. But you can see that my sections that I'm taking with the point cutting are the same as my diagonal sections before, because I still want to line those short hairs up so everything flows to the back. And this is where personal taste comes in so much. My haircuts are maybe a little bit heavier because I like how the hair falls, and I think a lot of that's because of my section pattern. But some people really like to lighten it up, take a lot of weight out of the hair, and that also works really well too, especially in styles like this where you're really trying to slick it. So much of this is personal taste. I mean, it's almost like sometimes hard to teach because so much of it is personal taste. Someone will say, oh, well, I do it a different way. And they're completely right. There's nothing wrong with the way they do it. It really just comes down to how you like it. And this is also the moment in the haircut where I really start to look and see exactly how I want to start thinking about product. I mean, we made the decision already, but as I start to move the hair around and see what I've created, I start to think about how much stickiness I'll need, how much slickness I'm looking for in the final result, how much texture I'm looking for in the final result. So normally in the haircut, I mean, you always talk about it a bit in the consultation, but you have the idea of strong, water-based, matte. There are so many good pomades like that. We have the white, we have the gray, we have the fiber. So now I'm really starting to think, okay, which of those pomades am I looking for? Will I end up with the silver? Will I end up with the white? So now I'm going to move because I want to use a little bit more texture because Ruben's going to be putting matte product in it. And I'm just going to help break up that front hairline a little bit more. And I'm just going to use a little bit of point cutting to do that. Really deep into the hair just to help take a bit of weight out of those ends. Now, I always do sections for this still because I don't want to over thin one section of the haircut. I go in, I break it up, I go lower. The short hairs are going to create a lot of lift. So this is something I'm doing in front of the ears. On the back of the head, I wouldn't do this deep point cutting because I would be then creating volume in an area I really want to see slicked down. Up, over, arrange it. You can see there's from the short bit we did in the beginning, deep point cuts. Really organize the hair so you can see what you're working with. Break it up, move that hair out of the way. I'm going to take a little bit more off, and then I'm ready to put a bit of concrete in it. Flip it over. I want all those short hairs lined up so the hair goes towards the back still. Notching through there. Seeing how much bulk I take out. But you can see that even with that point cutting, that straight line doesn't disappear. It's still in there. Nice. There we go. Nice and light when I run my comb through it. Nice and full. Okay, let's throw a little bit of concrete in here. Really nice. You're looking really good. Oops, sorry, Lawrence. Oh, wow. You're looking really good there, Ruben. Okay, so I'm going for my kit of concrete that I've dropped. Take a big scoop of that. Especially with the matte products, you don't want to use too much because the purpose of using a matte product is to get a natural finish. So you want to make sure that the hair can still behave in some degree of naturalness. So I always start with my fingertips, really working it into the roots well. Very rarely do I go in with my palms, especially working with natural products. So I really want to make sure that the product is well distributed in the hair. You can feel it coming off your fingertips when you do this. And then you just go back to your hands, you spread it again, just keep going back and forth until it's all in the hair. See, right at the end there, I get that last little bit of residue off. Perfect. And then, naturally, I go for my trusty Afro pick and my wide tooth comb. These are really great tools here for doing natural styling. So I just try and break all that up, Get all that product through the hair and just start moving it in the direction I want to see it. You can see that's really light now. There's that bulk from the graduation, but that bulk isn't felt in the hair. That bulk's seen in the shape. The haircut itself, the comb can go right through. It's nice and light. There we go. Start to see the final look. A really great tip for this is you can have them tilt their head forward and really try and utilize gravity to create a lot of volume and shape. And then this is all nice and slick. I'm going to go for my wide tooth comb to just give it a little bit more of that finger run through it feeling. But I like still the control. It's a very kind of controlled chaos when it comes to really neat, natural styling. There we go. I think that's pretty good. And I think that's just about time as well, actually. Nick, have we got any other questions?
That's what I just asked before we sign off. Are there any more questions before we end the live stream today? Get them in real quick and we'll answer them as soon as we can.
You see, this is where it's really nice to have those little short hairs because they can come out without bothering him too much.
All right. No questions coming in.
Oh, we got them coming in or no?
No, nothing yet.
Cool. There we go. I can give you the final little turn. Here's our final little spin. Yeah, really nice there. Reuben's just got that hair that you could comb all day.
So no questions, just lots of praise. Everybody's saying awesome haircut. Love you guys. Great work.
Really nice. That's what we like to hear. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed our demonstration, and I hope that you appreciated Reuben and Lawrence behind the camera here's time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week for one of our other fantastic ambassadors taking it away. Cool. This is the long trim textured pompadour. Perfect.
All right. Thanks so much, Jason. Everybody, thanks for tuning in with us today. We couldn't do this without you. Tune in next week on May the 2nd with Scambassador Dexter Googe. We'll see you next time. Bye.
We'll see you guys.